Okay, so it's gonna seem like we're jumping around a little bit, but today we are doing 4.1a more trig, and this one in particularly, we will be dealing with uh, angles and positive, negative angles. Before, by this time, if you're here, I should have already asked you if you got if you have a protractor, and if you don't have one, you should have already picked one up from the office, from my pile, from the main office. If by now, this should have already been covered a week ago. So hopefully, I was smart enough to ask you and set those protractors up for anybody who needed them. But let's start off first. Let's get some basic rules down first. The quadrants. This first one is your first quadrant. Then going counterclockwise, this is quadrant number 2. And down here is quadrant number 3. And below that is quadrant number 4. So just to remind you, we're dealing with 1, 2, 3, and 4. All angles are going to start, the first part of the angle is always going to start here on the x-axis, facing that way. If the angle travels counterclockwise, right? If it goes counterclockwise, it is a positive angle. So this here is a positive angle. If it travels clockwise, this way, it is a negative angle. So it doesn't matter where it ends. If it travels that way, it will be a negative angle always. Let's do some more examples here further on down. So let's say we have an angle that, if, of course, all of our angles start here. And it goes into a clockwise direction. So we'll start closer to the center, and it goes up once, twice, and it ends up all the way, let's say here. We know this is a 1, negative, and we'll just assume this is, we'll say 1,000. This is a negative 1,000 degree angle. Remember, we know it's negative because it is spinning clockwise. And each spin, right, because one giant loop around is 360 degrees. So 2 loops would be around 720 degrees, and all the way there, we'll estimate it around 1,000, because each quadrant itself, to travel through the quadrant, is 90 degrees. Let's discuss coterminal angles next. Okay, so let's say I have let's say this angle is 100 degrees. And it is 100 degrees in the positive direction. So this is 100 degrees positive. To find the coterminal of this 100 degree angle, we want it in the positive and negative direction, and we'll just make sure we have a comma in between the two of the positive and negative. Let's work with positive first. First, we cannot use the exact same angle, right? So we cannot say 100 degrees is the coterminal of 100 degrees. It's not how it works. So what we need to do is we go around, we hit it once, dip, and then we're going to pass it, come back to it, and that will be our coterminal. Since we did a whole circle, 360 degree loop, so all we have to do is add the 360 to that 100. So one of them is going to be 460 degrees. The other one, let's recite that. The other one is going to be the negative direction. Negative one is easier because it doesn't have a direction yet. So we'll start here. And we'll just meet that at the 100 degrees, which would be, if you did 360 minus 100, that should be negative 260 degrees. Those would be our coterminal of this, or we could write it the other way, negative 360, 460 degrees as our coterminals. Coterminals are just two angles that meet up where your angle is at. One going one negative direction, one going in the positive direction. Lastly, the only last thing that you need to know is complementary reminder of what a complementary supplementary angle is. Going back to our 100-degree angle here, complementary, remember that adds up to 90 degrees. So the complementary is impossible. We cannot have a complementary angle from 100 degrees. But our supplementary, remember, that has to add up to 180 degrees. So our supplementary to that is 80 degrees. And that is all.